All right, it's 6 o'clock. I will call the March 4th Board of Selectmen meeting to order and invite everybody to please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. We will first start out with public comment. Are there?
Humphrey Williams. Just a quick thing. Last time we were here, we were talking about the videos, and nobody could find them. I do know that they are listed right now. It's tough for some of the people to find it, but if they go to the social media section, you can see it under the town's YouTube channel now. Mm-hmm. So they are all available. It just, I know there was a lot of questions here, and there were questions out on the web, so it's a little bit easier to find it that way now. So that's all I got right now. Oh, actually, I would like to say one thing. I know we had the dedication, and the fire department collected the money for Captain Joel Barnes. I think we ought to have a moment for the loss of him. That's all. A moment of prayer here for a moment.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, so I guess we'll have a moment of silence. Right, thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, I'm not seeing any. I'll close public comment. And we will move on to new business. First up, Ira Miller's General Store, sale of alcohol requests. Amy Darling. I do not see her here, so.
Well, I confirmed with them that they plan to be here this evening.
Do we want to table this one? And
you want to hold it till they get here?
Yeah, we'll hold it to the end, and if they're not here by the end, maybe we can work off from the conversation you've had with them and
surely.
What we have here. All right, next up, request motion to reimburse due-to fund for police radio computer capital reserve fund. Chief Kraus.
This is just really a housekeeping request. Last year we purchased a new computer for the police department out of this capital reserve fund, and I made the request to the town administrator to get the motion from the board to request from the trustees of the trust fund to recoup that money from the trustees from that capital reserve fund back to the general fund. It was never done, so that needs to be done so the money can be recouped back into the general fund from that CRF.
All right. Any comments or discussion from the board?
So I'll make a motion that we authorize Ryan to sign. Is that what you're looking for?
All right, so we need to make a motion.
Actually, the form is made out with the authorized signature being that of the chairman of the board of selectmen. I think I provided a copy of the form in your packets, hopefully.
We'll make a motion to approve a voucher to the trustees of the trust fund in the amount of $1,314 for the police department computer radio capital reserve fund, and to authorize the board chairman to sign the voucher on the board's behalf.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do you have the form?
Yes, that one, yes.
For signature, okay.
I have this form.
And then, while you find that, you get the form for me to sign, or?
You got the original?
I have this.
I think you can just sign above where I wrote in chairman. Okay.
All right, next up is purchase process of a replacement police vehicle within the capital improvement program?
Yes. So this year, we are due to replace Cruiser 2, which is the F-150. It is a 2012 Ford F-150. That is to go through the capital improvement plan. That is to be purchased out of the police detail fund. I'm looking to get that process started because according to Ford, it's an 18-week build process after we request the vehicle. So even if we requested it next week, we wouldn't see the vehicle for approximately 18 weeks. So I'd like to get that process started, usually to get all the equipment in, to get the vehicle and everything else. Even if we started it now, we wouldn't see the vehicle till September or October based on getting everything in, set up and equipped. So I'm looking to get the board's permission to go forward and get that process started.
Are we replacing with another truck? Do we need
With
another truck?
So we can tow the boat. We can't tow the boat with the, SUVs.
How often do we tow the boat?
We tow the boat when we have to move it. I mean, if we put it back in, I'm probably not gonna leave it in this year because it got damaged and we had to have it repainted this year, leaving up against the dock that's there, because the dock that's there hasn't been replaced in quite a long time. So this year is probably gonna get towed quite a bit. The new truck isn't just a special services vehicle. The new truck is actually a pursuit rated vehicle. So it's a frontline vehicle. It's not just a second line vehicle any longer.
I just think it's a lot of money to put a boat in and out. How many miles you put on it this year?
On the truck?
Yeah.
We have, I don't know how many miles we put on it this year, but we have 80,000 miles on the vehicle.
Yeah, but it was a regular vehicle until, I don't know.
Right, it was a regular vehicle till the last year. We didn't put a lot
Right,
of
well,
miles
what
on
I'm
it
saying
because-
is, we're gonna buy a $40,000 pickup to put a boat in and out.
But we're not gonna use it just to put a boat in and out. This one is a pursuit rated truck. The new trucks
So
are
is it gonna be a
pursuit rated.
patrol vehicle?
It is. The new trucks are patrol rated, pursuit rated.
I mean, is it going to be a patrol
It
vehicle?
is going to be a patrol
Okay,
vehicle. It's going to be in the patrol fleet, yes.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm asking. It's just, the way this is written is just, I just can't justify spending $40,000.
I don't know who wrote it to just put the boat in and out. 'cause
Well,
I-
it doesn't say that.
Okay.
You just told me that. That's what you use it for, is to put the boat in and out. You
That's
didn't-
one of the reasons we have the truck, because we can't tow the
How many
boat.
other vehicles are there?
We have 5 vehicles total. We
I just
have
think it's a lot of money, but.
the 4 SUVs, and then we have the F-150.
And you just replaced 3 of those, is that correct?
We replaced the 3 frontline SUVs, correct. And the truck is due this year. It's on its 7-year rotation.
How much money is in the detail line for it?
I believe
Is there-
there's $110,000 in it. And through the CIP plan, the detail line is supposed to replace Cruiser 1 and Cruiser 2. We lease the frontline cars because those cars get the most usage and those cars get the shortest lifespan. The truck and Cruiser 1 are expected to get at least 6 to 7 years.
Any other
Questions?
discussion or questions from the board?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to authorize Chief Kraus to proceed with the process of purchasing a replacement vehicle for cruiser number 2 as per the town's 2019 CIP.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yep. You walked away.
Do you want?
Not,
Right, thank you.
I mean, the
No,
only thing, with that being said, I mean, the biggest problem I have with it is, I mean, yeah, okay, we're trying to stick to a CIP. I get it. But with that being said, you know, we got 4 other cruisers. How many are on duty at a time?
When we're at full staff, we can have up to 3 cruisers on duty at a time.
So you got 5 vehicles, so this is the 5th.
Yep.
The town voted for the CIP, so I will follow what the town voted for. I mean, there's been past things where, you know, basically the townspeople were, in the CIP were told one thing that, oh, we're gonna buy a new truck, but we're getting rid of 2 vehicles. Well, it didn't happen. Shame on us. So that's just whatever. The taxpayers have spoken and approved it. They can vote no in the thing. So.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, Chief, did you have a question you wanted to ask the board about disposing of the old vehicles?
We have the 2 of the 3 old vehicles back. The third one should be back at the end of this week. How does the board want to move forward? I know the board is probably going to keep one of them. How do we want to move forward with the other 2? Does the board want to auction them themselves or sell them themselves? Or do you want me to look into the process of having them auctioned when the state does their auction in Concord? Obviously, the state auction in Concord, you have less control over how much money you get back.
With that being said, there's also highway vehicles sitting up there that should be, that the Public Works Director was told to authorize to sell them on Craigslist, I believe, at the beginning of the year. Am I correct? And I know that there's a tractor sitting there with a flat tire, and then there's a pickup truck buried up on the snowbank. I
So
mean,
do a bulk auction.
yeah, what I'm saying is, we're gonna do cruises, we'll get them as well. I don't know what the best way is, but I mean, there's 2 vehicles at least sitting at the highway garage that need to go.
And keep it in town, do you think?
Maybe-
Rather than sending it to the state?
Well, I think we could also use a local auction
Right,
house. I would imagine we could throw them in with
right.
some other stuff they were auctioning off too. Have we done anything with this when the state did their auction before? Do you know? Have we?
We have not. The last time that we sold off cruisers, a long time ago, we used to just trade them in. And then when we sold them off, they got sold off through, I think, sealed bid to the Board of Selectmen. The selectmen opened the sealed bids and sold them that way.
Just do an auction, I think.
So I can look into the state auction in Concord and see how that process works and get back to you and let you know if that's the process you want to do, or we can sell it yourself, see how that goes.
I think basically we're better off selling it ourselves by the time you truck everything over there, because all 4 are gonna be unregistered, if that's just what we're talking is 4 vehicles. There's 4 that we know of. I mean, there's 2 sitting up there now. We bought a new flail mower. The old one is sitting there with a flat tire. And then the pickup truck that got replaced is sitting buried up on the side of the snowbank, so.
I mean, do we want to have the chief look into the state auction and see what, as an option, and then come back and revisit it, or?
I've been to those before, and I mean, they go for basically peanuts, so.
Well, have them look into maybe doing an auction here, talk to an auction house or whatever.
I think
I don't think
they're
you're
doing
gonna have
one in
enough
May,
stuff.
I think.
What's that?
I don't think you'll have enough stuff. You know, I mean, an auction house normally takes
Right.
stuff, but they
Right.
want, they'll lump
Stuff usually.
several things together. I
Do
don't
we
think
lump
we
it when we
have.
do the property?
No, I'd say look into other options, I mean, see what the options are, but
The other option is sealed bids, advertise it locally, town website, and notices on bulletin boards, and however else you publicize things like that around here, and then set a date and take sealed bids.
You wanna go
put that
that
in the
route?
motion. To dispose of town property, town vehicles by sealed bids.
All right, we're gonna have to authorize somebody to
Somebody's gotta give us the
go through,
details.
kind of set that up and organize it, or it's not gonna go
I
anywhere.
make a motion, Chairman.
Dave, is that something
That's
you
sort
would
of my
want?
job, Sealed bids.
Yeah, and I guess the department heads probably can feed you the information.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, very good.
Come to us the next meeting with a proposal, and
Well, I'll try to get it organized. And,
Okay.
All right.
With Dave, we'll go over the information on it and we'll go from there.
Yep.
And get with the cap too.
Not to go backwards, but are we keeping one, or are we not keeping one?
I thought we were gonna keep one for,
Okay, I just wanna make sure
Yeah.
we kinda mentioned it, but we didn't
Right.
actually bring it up again, so.
oh no, it's,
Yeah, I think that was from the start, that was the game plan.
Okay.
Alright, so we'll get, I'll get with Michelle. Michelle will just need to put a plate on that one. We'll need to pull the police, we'll have to pull the Milton police striping off of it anyways. And then the town will have to decide what it's gonna do after that, but we'll get a municipal plate for it, and we'll go from there.
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna jump back up to Ira Miller's General Store, sale of alcohol request.
Do you want me to come up there?
Yeah, you can come up to the podium and speak, or.
Hi. So we just are filling out the liquor license, and we have to ask permission to sell alcohol at Ira Miller's when it opens. We need a letter from the town.
I don't have any problem with that. The only thing I have a question on in the last part of your motion is to have live entertainment on premises.
Well, that was my understanding, is that the applicants are seeking to have periodic live entertainment, and that's a separate category of license, I believe.
The way that we're reading this is that it would just require 2 extra things to be able to have on or off premise, and so we didn't know if there was going to be a wine tasting or something like that. Then we couldn't. I mean, in order to have that, we have to have this on premise. This, which is what they describe as entertainment. We would need a letter that would allow entertainment as well. I don't mean we would be having like bands and things like that. But that isn't the important part. The important part would be able to sell closed. But then I didn't know about whether or not we should just add that in as well, since it's just 2 more. They just require a menu and another letter for on-premise as well.
As I understand this, having spoken to the applicant's husband today, is this would be for selling beer and wine only, like a convenience store.
Yes.
So there would be no serving or pouring, no service of alcoholic beverages on premise. So it's not a tavern or anything. It's basically a store. I did draft a letter to the New Hampshire State Liquor Commission. If the board agrees to support this request, the board could vote to approve and sign that letter.
I'll make a motion, we authorize the interim town administrator to send a letter of support to the New Hampshire Liquor Commission for the Ira Miller's General Store application to sell alcoholic beverages and to have live entertainment on premises.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Actually, I set the letter up for the board to sign it with the 3 signature spots, so we'll need some original signatures on there. Okay.
Would you like a copy? I
And
was just gonna make a copy of this.
yeah,
for
we
them.
should make a copy, and they can have the original.
Just give me 1 second before you get too deep into it. Thank you.
Thank you. Good. Thank you. Good luck. Appreciate it. All right. Moving on. Discussion of letter from DES. Lockhart Field. Dave?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as I informed the board, the town received a letter a week or so ago from the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services regarding Lockhart Field. And it's a 2-page letter. I think you have it in your packets. This letter is the result of, I gather that there were environmental assessment reports done over the last couple of years of Lockhart Field. There was a environmental assessment phase 1 report, and then there was a phase 2 environmental assessment report, and then there was a supplemental phase 2 report. I gathered all those documents. They're in this big blue binder here. There are several hundred pages of information. The good news, as I gather it, is that they didn't find a whole lot there at this parcel, but they are requiring that the town undertake a few actions there. This afternoon we met with the gentleman who actually wrote these environmental assessment reports, Judd Newcomb. He works for Cradair Associates out of Westbrook, Maine. They're environmental engineers. And we also met with James Burden and Jennifer Sizz of the Stratford Regional Planning Commission. The Stratford Regional Planning Commission receives funds to do brownfield planning and work. That's what funded all this environmental assessment report. All that work was done through the Stratford County Regional Planning Commission, and the director of the commission reminded me this afternoon that the town of Milton is not a member of the commission, and that by her calculation they have rendered something like $17,000 worth of services over the last year to the town of Milton, and yet Milton is not a member of the commission. I just thought I'd pass that on by way of a comment. So we met with these individuals. Bruce Woodruff and I met with them and reviewed this letter and what the state is asking the town to do. You'll see on page 2 there's 4 bullet points in the letter. And that's what they're asking the town to do, to submit an application for an activity and use restriction, an AUR for the footprint of the facility. This, I gather, is just a paperwork requirement. And the gentleman from Cradair said he could draft the language for it, and then we should have town council review it. And then once it gets finalized, it has to be filed at the Registry of Deeds. The second bullet point is to remediate surface soil contamination exceeding SRS. I forget what that means. That represents a direct contact risk associated with the drum located at the toe of the landfill slope. The gentleman from Cradair said he's going to ask DES, the agency that sent us the letter, for more clarification about what exactly it is that they're asking the town to do under this point. The third bullet point is to delineate the downgradient extent of AGQS, again I forget what that stands for, exceedances of both PFAS, again I forget what that is, and arsenic in groundwater. Again, the gentleman from Cradair Associates said he's going to seek further clarification from DES about exactly what it is that they want the town to do under that item. And the last bullet point is to submit a groundwater management permit application to monitor contamination in groundwater sourced from the site and include surface water sampling to monitor trends in wetlands and stream water quality. This would apparently require the town to have an environmental engineer prepare this application. It could be done by Cradair Associates, but whether there will be additional funding available through the Regional Planning Commission to fund this kind of work is unknown. So the town might have to, plan to engage either Cradair or some other similar consultants to prepare and submit a groundwater management permit. Now the good news here is if you look closely at what they're saying, they're not asking that you have to do all this work within 60 days. They're saying they want the town to submit a schedule by which it will do these 4 items. So, like I said, some of them are just paperwork. Some of them are going to require some further clarification as to exactly what they want us to do before we can talk about a schedule. And the last one might be dependent on either the Regional Planning Commission or the town getting additional funds to fund that work. So I just wanted to make you, the board, aware of this, and the public aware of this. All of these reports are here in this big blue binder. It's public information. It's available for review.
Who's paying this Cradair?
As I indicated, that they're being paid with, I believe it's US EPA funds, brownfield planning funds that are made available to the regional planning agencies, and then they have funded Cradair to do this work for Milton, despite the fact that the town's not a member of the planning commission.
But with that being said, once we're gonna open up a can of worms like we started up at the Milton Mills landfill when they had a little hide sticking out of the ground and turned into a huge...
I think that anecdote came up today, as a matter of fact, and yeah, we want to avoid creating more problems.
Oh, I mean, I know exactly what's in there, because when I was a kid, I mean, there's said about a barrel sticking out. I know there's full-size cars. The town didn't have a recycling program then. It was cars, there's everything buried in there, so. But with that being said, so right now there's no expense to the town,
Not immediately.
but a potential of huge expense to the town.
Some expense. I don't know how huge.
Well, with that being said, is how are we going to start putting away, you know, if you look at, they want us to take the surface soil, I mean, so it might not be this year, but it might be next year, so there's something else the town of Milton's gonna end up. I mean, we're right,
Well, there's 2 of them that we need additional clarification on.
right, which I'm saying, but eventually it's gonna come back to the town of Milton's gonna have to pay to, I mean,
And
you're
then-
looking at Portsmouth with, Pease trying to get, and then the Coakley landfill or wherever that is, I mean, they're in the brownfield scope. Milton's not even on the brownfield scope as far as,
I think that's a Superfund site. That's a whole nother category of.
this is probably gonna end up being the same thing. This was
No,
probably,
it sounds like from these reports that they didn't find that much there. Um,
Alright. We're not acting, nothing to act on, correct?
No, I'm just wanting to make the board aware of this communication and what we've done so far, which is to meet with the author of the reports and the Regional Planning Commission staff to try to figure out what we need to do to comply with this, the 60-day time limit they gave us to come up with a schedule.
And
So
Miss-
we're-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, so you're kinda taking lead on the 60-day requirement and
Yeah,
working on
that's what I'm doing.
okay.
And is Mr. Woodruff assisting you in that?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
He's very knowledgeable about it.
All right. Board all set? Thanks, Steve. Next up, discussion on donation of parcel of land to the town, map 49, lot 52.
Okay, I had a call from a Mrs. LaBay, who was offering to donate a small parcel of land. It's basically just a sliver. I think it's like 1/1800ths of an acre to the town. And I gather the board had talked about this previously and indicated its interest in pursuing this. The thing is that to accept parcels of real estate to do it legally under state law, you have to follow the requirements in chapter 4114A. I think I provided a copy of that to you in your packets. And you'll see that first the selectmen have to notify the planning board and the conservation commission and get their comments and recommendations about it. And then once they've received those comments, you have to hold 2 public hearings at 2 successive meetings within a certain time frame that's specified by the statute. And then after you've held the 2 public hearings, you can schedule a vote, and then you vote to accept the parcel, and then town council can sign off that you've done everything, legally by the book. And so if that's if the board wants to move forward with that land acquisition, those are the steps I would say that you need to take.
Is Kathy here?
Kathy is here. She's in the
There
back.
you are. You're hiding back there. When I looked at this map with you, wasn't there another person?
There is another sliver there that does abut up to it, but if it'll be noticed, if we have to public notice it to him. I haven't talked to the other owner.
In this parcel, the parcel that's being offered to the town, it abuts up against conservation land.
It does butt up to a
Yeah,
piece that is
so-
conservation
so-
land,
so
but
would-
there is another little sliver, and the gentleman lives in Farmington.
Mhm.
But I could see where the person that did the subdivision, the lady that has offered the piece of property to us, where there is going to be, she's subdividing and doing house lots, and this way, it'll be a clear cut for her behind. To have another owner come in behind her wouldn't be to her advantage. But they will be notified at the public hearing.
Now, with that being said, isn't there in some of the properties that we're taking for taxes, isn't there a parcel that also has, somebody's trying to donate it? Would that fall under the same?
Well, the one that's in the town-owned property, it is a gift that we received probably 7 or 8 years ago. And it was just donated, and we did not realize that process needed to be done at the time. I can't remember who was handling it, but we did receive it, and it is on there. And I mentioned it the last time at the last meeting.
But
that
what I'm saying is, with that being said, can we group them all and do it all in one shot? I mean, we've got the one over.
Public notice?
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna do public hearings, and instead of just doing one for each one of them, is if that other sliver over there,
Plus
is-
the one up on
plus-
Picket Hill.
plus the one on Picket Hill, is do them all at once and
That way we won't
get
run
rid of
into
all
an
three
issue
of
when
them.
we do a public auction.
do all, so that way you have to do public hearing for each parcel.
Is that what the board wishes to do?
Yeah, but how do we want to amend your,
Well, I don't know, I've never done one of these retroactively after the town already accepted a parcel to go back and re-accept it using the procedures outlined in the statute. Do you want to list that other parcel in there in the motion? Is that what you're suggesting, Andy?
well, I mean, rather than do a ton of public hearings and going into the planning board, and do it all in one shot, be done with it. And
So,
So we've got that list of town-owned properties. Which one is it?
Picket
It's
Hill.
gonna be map 17, lot 5 on Brookfield Drive.
What?
This one right here, because
Okay.
I can see when it comes to the fact of putting it on an auction, that the legality might come up then.
Okay, so if you want to amend that motion to include lot, tax map 17, lot 5.
All right, make a motion to authorize the interim town administrator to proceed with the required steps to acquire the proposed donation of land at tax map 49, lot 52, and also tax map 17, lot 5, under RSA 41:14-A.
Second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right, next up, request for DPW to host Earth Day cleanup and accept donations.
Yes, Pat Smith was planning on being here, but then he injured himself over the weekend and is out of commission, so he asked if I would represent this to the board. I gather this is an annual approval for the DPW to accept donations for its annual roadside pickup day event that's held in conjunction with Earth Day each year.
I'll go ahead and make an motion to approve the DPW's director's request for the DPW to be authorized to solicit and accept donations for food and refreshments for the annual cleanup day participants.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The only thing I've got is some discrepancies in the dates.
Oh yeah, the date had to change because it was there was a conflict. Do you recall what the conflict was? Easter.
Oh.
It was going to be the Saturday before Easter, and then he decided, well, maybe people might be traveling on the Saturday before Easter, so we moved it back a week.
So is it the 22nd or the 27th?
27th.
27th.
Okay.
It'll be warmer too.
Watch clouds will be out.
All right, old business. Follow up on approval and signing of Avatar assessment contract.
I'll make a motion to approve and sign the reevaluation update agreement with the Avatar Associates of New England.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you gonna do the witness for us, Dave?
Can do.
Do you have to sign that too?
Oh, where am I signing?
Witness. Unless you want me to and pencil.
Either or.
I should make a mistake.
All right, next up, follow up on Stratford Regional Planning.
Yes, at your last regular meeting, you voted to appoint Bruce Woodruff as your member to the Transportation Advisory Committee at the Stratford County Regional Planning Agency. They have a form that they want appointments to be made on, so we provided that form for you, and it has down at the bottom here for it has 3 signature blocks down here at the bottom for the selectman to sign it. If you would, please.
Do we need to do both these?
I don't know why there's 2 copies of it. I think one's blank and one's filled out with Bruce's name on it, so we want the one
Well,
with
looks
his
like
name on it.
Oh, I got you. Yeah,
Mhm.
never mind.
The first form is if you, at the end of the letter, it says what the first form was.
All right, next up, follow up on old fire station status.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, at your last meeting, we had a discussion about the possible sale of the old fire station property, and we talked about the problem that we don't have the legal authority to, the town doesn't have the legal authority to sell it right now because there's 2 different statutes, 4114A and RSA 8080. 8080 only pertains to tax title parcels, and while it does allow the use of a real estate broker, it doesn't do us any good because it's just tax title properties. And then the other one, 4114A, is for non-tax title properties, but then it has a specific exclusion down towards the bottom, excluding properties that were received by gift for the town. So we were sort of in a box where, you know, we couldn't get to what we want to do because we couldn't find the legal authority. It occurred to me that there might be another way to skin that cat, and that would be to ask our legislators, our 2 state reps and our state senator, to sponsor special legislation just for the town of Milton, giving the town the authority to sell that parcel using a realtor, and you know, it doesn't have to be you know, a big fancy bill or anything. It can be very, very simple, and it would, I don't know why it would be controversial or anything. It's just a measure to assist the town of Milton to get something done that you've been trying to get done for a long time. And so I've got calls out to our state senator. I know you've contacted one of our state reps, and if we can get them on board, this might be an alternative route. My understanding is this state legislature is still pretty early in their process. They haven't gotten to the crossover point yet where the bills go from the one house to the other house, so we'd have to see if there's some mechanism for a late filed bill that they would be willing to pursue on your behalf. So if that sounds like a strategy that the board's interested in pursuing, I'm more than willing to pursue that on your behalf.
Very
Yeah.
much so.
I'll make a motion to authorize the interim town administrator to contact the town's legislative delegation to see if they will agree to sponsor special legislation regarding the sale of the old fire station property.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did you get the email I sent you with her information?
Yeah,
All right.
I took it all down.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Next up, follow-up discussion of town-owned properties available for disposition.
Okay, at your last meeting, we provided you copies of this package of information about all the town-owned properties that might be available for disposition, and the board asked for additional time to review it and think about it. My own view and recommendation on it is that to sort of go with the cream that's available to be harvested at the top there, which is all the properties, the tax title properties that the town has held for more than 3 years, where there won't be any issues to deal with the previous owners, where the town has clear tax title deed. Take all of those and put those out either through an auction house or a real estate broker, whatever strategy you wish to pursue. That would be my suggestion anyway.
So, just that previous RSA we were talking about.
8080 that has to do with tax title deeds. Those you have clear authority to either go out through an auction house or through a real estate broker.
Now, before that, do we still have to send it to planning board and
No,
conservation?
that's
We don't have
that's
to do
the other
that.
statute.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we had to, but
No,
okay. For tax deeded, it's.
it's a different process.
I didn't think we had to do a public hearing, but for some reason I was thinking that.
No public
Okay.
hearing required.
Right.
Just a.
I just thought when we, like the fire station and stuff, I thought we put it in front of the planning board and the. No, I'm not saying it was necessarily the right or wrong thing to do, but.
Mm-hmm.
Only because that was gifted, correct? Only because,
Well, the fire station, and then the
was
previous
gift.
board was gonna sell one of these properties, and I thought that it went in front of the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board before we did the sealed bid process.
Well, that was a gift to the town, and I'm not aware
Well, one of
of
them
what
wasn't.
procedure you were following at that time.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just wanna make sure that we don't have to. All right.
I personally would like to get rid of everything that we can unload. There's no sense in sitting on them. I mean, I'm looking at some from 2013 that I don't know why it's still sitting here. Some from 2010. It's like,
I have a question for you. I don't know if you can answer this, Dave, or not, but I was talking with the water district because they have liens on some properties, et cetera, et cetera. One of the properties that's here that would be a possible sale has money owed to the water district. Is there any way of recouping that?
I'm not certain. I'd have to do a little research on that topic. I don't know off the top of my head.
Do they have a lien on it?
Some of the properties did, but she wasn't sure on this one in particular that is available for sale right now. She couldn't find that there was or wasn't, but as you know, there's been some issues there for a bit, so.
That might be a town council type question.
So how do we want to move forward to get these back on the tax roll?
Well, I think some of them that even aren't in the 3-year mark, myself personally, I think, and I'm not sure what legal counsel, I mean, obviously we need to check with legal counsel, but I really don't think there's any sense of waiting, because you're just gonna have a property deteriorating more. You're gonna have a liability to the town. I think there's a few of these that haven't hit the 3-year mark that if we can offload them and somebody will clean them up, it's gonna do multiple things. It's gonna get them back on the tax roll. It will clean up around town, and it will also stop these properties from deteriorating even further, where maybe right now they could be saved, but in 3 years from now, nobody in them, they're not gonna be able to be saved.
I mean,
But I'm not sure what
even with that
legally, if it's gonna open us up to additional liability that I'm not aware of.
Well, again, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, even if I know when you're talking about it, even if the water department hasn't put a lien on the property, well, shame on them. But then again, it's money they're not getting because the water's shut off. So, I mean, we can't go back and, you stipulate if there's a lien on the property that the purchaser, cleans up all liens at no expense to the town, I would say. Something's got to be legally written up, but.
Can I say something? When we had the last auction, there was a piece that was auctioned off, and I know at the time, that particular piece had an outstanding a huge water bill. And usually when it goes off on auction, I mean, they buy it as is, but the liens at that time did not go with it. But that is something I think you would want to talk to the person handling the auctions and legal counsel.
Yeah.
No, because sewer's got to be also involved. If they've got water, they've also they're in the sewer district, so.
I mean, it's just like the back taxes. When you put it out to auction, you don't always
Get the back taxes.
You don't always get your back taxes either.
Well, again, the cleanest thing would be to concentrate on the parcels with 3 years and above that the town's held, and I think we can do those relatively quickly. Get some experience and success in doing land disposition, and then you could move on and look at some of the other parcels that'll be coming up on the 3 years pretty soon. Anytime you start dealing with the properties that the tax title properties that the town hasn't held for 3 years, the previous owners have certain rights under the statutes, including if you sell it before the 3 years, to participate in the proceeds to some degree or another. In other words, they get some money from the sale. So it's a whole nother level of complication.
Right.
whereas the 3-year ones, those are pretty straightforward.
No, I mean, I guess I don't disagree with that, but just looking at it from another side is, especially a couple of them in the back of my mind kind of stand out that aren't in the 3-year mark that are a problem.
Understood.
And
maybe
if
those
if we're gonna have some sort of auction, wouldn't it almost make more sense to kind of do them all in one shot? Maybe we don't do all of them, but maybe the 2 or 3 real thorns on our side, so to say.
Probably talking this one down here and then this one.
Those are the 2 I'm initially thinking of.
Yeah, well, there's a couple that
Personally.
need to be demolished. That's a whole nother question.
But
So-
they could be sold as is with stipulations that they get cleaned up in a certain amount of time, so the town doesn't have to.
We can put covenants on the deed, correct, Kathy?
I believe you can, yes. That you request this. There's different ways to approach it, yes. And again, you'd want legal counsel to do it. Possibly a workshop, sitting down, going through everyone one by one. You haven't mentioned about these slivers that are landlocked or, abutters only. That's something, again, it would get it on the tax roll and clean up. Clean up the map, everything.
Well, those are probably low priority
They're low priority, but it's still
kinds
on,
of things.
and we can empty the list off that way
Yeah.
too,
Yeah, but the town's not going to realize much revenue from.
other than putting it with the parcel that merges.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I guess the 2 that stand out to me that haven't hit the 3-year mark are 565 White Mountain Highway
79 Charles.
and 79 Charles. Yep.
But again, I really think that we need to put some strict, like, we don't want to wind up like the famous Dingley.
I think you need to do it
Have it.
in a workshop with legal counsels. Me and Kathy there to go down through to give. I mean, there's one that was on there, and I still don't understand. It was on last year's, and then it got yanked off. It was, it was listed in the paper, and then it got yanked off, and there's got to be a story behind it, which I think everybody really needs to know. What happened. So, it's been there since 2013. So, or 2016, whatever the case may be. But I think it needs to be in a workshop, because then, which ones are going to auction, which ones, how you going to divvy them up, and
Well, I mean, I think the ones that we've had for 3 years were all set to go for auction. The only one that I would not support selling is the 1121 White Mountain Highway until there's further discussion with Historical Society and what that could potentially become. But other than that, all the 3-year ones, I think we could maybe have
Does that
Dave
include
work
the
on
one
the-
that Andy's talking
yeah, but
about?
how are
To go
we,
forward
how are
and-
we going
and
to
then-
word? We've got to talk to legal counsel about how do we put the stipulations on.
Well,
We
I
don't
would
wanna run
assume
into
you're
another
going to put.
fire. We don't want to run into another fire station mess. Let's do it right and do it right the
Yeah,
first
but the fire station mess is completely different because that was
I
a gift.
understand that, but what I'm saying is to legally put stipulations on, say 79, there might be some others in here that are eyesores, that how do you put stipulations on these properties to make sure that if you sell them, what's 3 months, 6 months to clean them up, or
But I would think you'd want to put the stipulations on anything that has a house on it, because in a couple years, a house that isn't an eyesore today can become an eyesore tomorrow. Or,
well, there again, we need somebody to give us the legal wording to cover our butts to make sure it happens.
Well, I think you're making it
Harder than it
more
is.
complicated here. The very simple and straightforward thing to do that we could get busy on right away is to take all the 3-year tax title parcels and get them out to bid, with the exception of the one that you mentioned, that there's a question about whether the Historical Society has them.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, that's my opinion. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
And I'll
what
see your comment and raise you by the other 2 properties that really need to go. Those 2 properties, I think, need to be added in to that mix, regardless.
Okay, but those are
Even-
going to require a little extra work before they can go out in terms of,
So I think maybe if we could just start investigating that,
okay?
and if we're gonna go down the path of an auction company or whatever path we go down, we let them know that these other 2 properties, we're working out the details and seeing if maybe they can be added, but for sure the 3-year ones, with the exception of the 1121 White Mountain Highway. Again, I'm not sure if the board agrees on that, but that would be my stance on the situation.
Okay, and has the board decided which avenue you want to go? Do you want to go auction, or do you want to go real
I
estate?
had thought real estate agent before, but I'm really thinking just to get her done. Just do the auction and
I second that.
No, I think an auction would be the cleanest, quickest, fairest way to go.
And in the meantime, we can get some legal counsel as far as the stipulation.
Those 2 other properties,
the,
correct?
and the stipulations
Now,
about
not
them
just
being
the 2 other properties, because, 20 Dawson Street's also got some
right.
issues. I know the one on Silver Street's got some issues.
Right, they
so-
all need to have some kind of covenants.
Right.
And that attached with, or some kind of guidelines, whatever you want to call it, that go with it. But the other 2 properties that are not at the 3-year mark, that need to go because they're a danger. They're
Yep. I agree. Okay.
So you want that in the motion to direct the acting interim town administrator to move forward with St. Jean's Auction House to,
I would accept such a motion, yes.
I'll second it.
You got the paraphrase.
So, just have a quick discussion on the motion before we take roll call, so I want to make sure we're all on the same page. We're talking all the 3-year properties, except for 1121 White Mountain Highway?
Isn't that what I threw in and then raised you? No.
Okay,
Yes.
and the additional 2?
Yeah.
Okay, so all in
In
favor?
agreement?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you want to put a number total just for
Number total, you mean which lots?
just the amount? Oh, there are 14 lots or
Do you want the
whatever.
land too, ones, or are we going to hold off on
Well,
them?
that's
Last
your.
auction we had, we did land and land.
If we do the lands, there's 14,
14.
not including White Mountain Highway and Charles, so 16 total.
I got 9. What am I looking at wrong?
Kathy,
I have
What do we
9
got?
less than 3 years.
I'm
Are
not
you
going
looking
you're
at
the
the 3 year?
expert.
Because what I did,
So
9 of
you
them
all
were
rolled
less
your
than
eyes
3
about
years
me
and 14
asking.
were ready for sale. Oh, wait a minute.
I think you did it
Take
back.
off, I did 1121.
I think you did it the other way around.
We
Because
did
possible
that.
sale are the only ones we
1,
can,
2, 3.
the 3-year means it hasn't hit the
Right.
3-year mark.
No, 3 years
Three,
mean
four.
it means it has hit the 3-year mark, right?
No,
Pardon
because
me?
When it's notated 3 years in the right-hand column, that means it has hit the 3-year
Yeah.
mark. Is that
Oh,
correct?
no,
No.
it hasn't. That was, it hasn't hit 3 years yet.
It
Well,
says
it hasn't
possible
hit.
sale, right?
Possible
1,
sales, I
2,
come up with
3,
9.
9, yeah.
4.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so
did it
the ones that
backwards.
say possible sale then, that
Yep.
have hit the 3
3
year.
years,
Oh,
yep.
okay,
Yeah,
I
it
didn't
hasn't.
understand that.
7, 8.
Plus the 2
9,
that you're talking about, so you have 9 to 11 of them.
Okay.
Well, I beg to differ with you. I'm counting 14 on my list that say possible sale.
Or,
Yeah.
Does it say possible sale of butter? We wasn't counting.
Okay. So that takes away.
I get 10, and then when you take 1121 White Mountain Highway off, that's 9.
Okay.
Because possible sale of the
Okay.
butter wouldn't go to
All right.
auction.
So
Yeah.
9 plus
'Cause
the
it's
other 2 will
landlocked.
be 11.
I thought she wanted butter.
So glad we clarified that. Thanks, guys.
So to, So did we agree on a number?
11.
It's 9
11?
in 3
11.
years, plus the other 2 that we was talking about that
Right.
wasn't at 3 years, so 11 in all.
Okay.
All right. So we're good with that?
Okay.
Can you do roll?
Sorry, what's that?
Can you please do roll call on your motion?
Oh, I never rolled off. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Did I miss that part?
Thank you.
Okay. Other business? We're good with that. Moving on to approval of minutes. February 20th, 2019.
I make a motion, we accept the February 20th as written.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Here's for signature.
We were here under other business, Conservation Commission. I believe.
Ryan.
That's Dave.
We're Conservation Commission under other business, Dave.
Yeah, I think they wanted to say something under public input or at whatever time the board wants to recognize
I
them.
wasn't sure when.
Let me sign that so I can get going.
All
Oh, sorry.
right, hold on. I'll ask the board once we get the minutes signed here.
I was holding everything.
Thank you.
So, the Conservation Commission,
If it's okay.
I have no
No,
problem.
no
or we
problem.
want to do it now? All right.
Are we to other business?
We're going back to other business.
Okay, thank you for taking the time to listen to pretty major concern that the Conservation Commission has regarding Article 3. We had 2 special meetings, a total of 3 meetings last month, because we had a lot of members of the public, including Three Ponds Protective Association, contacting us about this warrant article. So we spent some time and we wrote a pretty detailed letter about the precise concerns that we have. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to read that letter.
I've already read it, so.
I
I read it too.
Okay. I would just like to add, though, that I don't think we'd be standing here right now if the Conservation Commission had been brought in to the discussion about doing major changes to zoning.
So, if you don't mind,
Sure.
I am on the planning board
Mhm.
for the Board of Selectmen,
Yeah.
and I by no means want to start any tension between any boards. I think everybody is volunteering, everybody's doing
Mhm.
the absolute best they can with all the best intentions. And I recall the Conservation Commission being asked, there was public hearings, and nobody showed up to them.
There were public hearings, that's true. And,
So-
however, I'm chair, so we weren't asked to be part of it. Like you say, we're all volunteers, and none of us knew about this until the week before the deliberative session, when, we were notified by members of the public. That's just the way it is, we're volunteers, we're all busy, we're not, unfortunately, taking the time to go and see what public hearings, what's happening. We are an advisory board appointed by the selectmen, so it seems that you should be taking advantage of us. I mean, you know us all.
Again, I saw the emails, that email that went out at the time, but again, I don't want to get into
We're
a,
responsible, reasonable group of people, and we should be looped in to something as important as this. So I just wanted to get that on record. Bruce did attend one of the meetings. He seemed amenable to, working together better in the future. But I just want to put it out there, we're your board, you appoint us. We should be on the checklist to review something as scopy as this. The 3 ponds, we're in litigation right now with this big Michigan corporation. And my personal opinion is that this opens doors for them to do a major expansion there, and we would have no recourse. We have no filter to lean back on. So I think Wayne may have some things to add. I mean, you all know how important the 3 ponds are. The pearl and the oyster of Milton. We've got to take steps to protect it because it's very fragile. It's on a tipping point where they're shallow, they have an invasive species. We should be looking for ways to reduce stormwater runoff, nutrient runoff, instead of increasing it, because we may hit that tipping point. I mean, these are all things that we really need to be aware of. And just imagine what would happen. It's the recreational, economic backbone of this town if the water quality started to degrade. So would property values, and so would our a huge part of our tax base. So I think we need to be really on our toes about this. So,
well, it's up to your pleasure.
It's up to the board.
No, I'm fine.
I'm fine with it. So.
I would also give some time to Jen if she would like to speak as well. But I came before you a couple months ago when we requested $10,000 as part of the CIP plan, Steve Baker and myself. And you were very gracious to allow me to ramble on for like 20 plus minutes about the fragile nature of our ponds. We had prepared a document, but apparently you had not received it in advance, which is what necessitated me to go and give that educational background about, how fragile our ponds are and the threat that European naiad faces to all of us. And we recognize, as Cynthia said, that that's the 3 ponds are your greatest resource that you have. And right now you're dealing with a middle-aged pond, all right, an over middle-aged person speaking for you maybe, but a middle-aged pond that's considered mesotropic, which means that right now, if anything happens to upset that balance, and it won't take much. It doesn't take much to upset the impervious nature. You go and cut down trees, you go and put in campsites, you go and do too much around the ponds, and you change the runoff into our ponds, which goes and does a phosphorus load that we talked about before, that will degrade the quality of our water, which will impact all of us. It impacts boating, it impacts the nature of plants and aquatic wildlife everywhere, plant and animal. And we just cannot afford anything that might do that. As early as yesterday, Norm Turgeon was in correspondence with Bruce. And let's just read one little tiny part of it, if I could, please. And it had to do with proposed letter regarding zoning ordinance amendment. Hi, Bruce. The amended zoning ordinance proposed by the planning board defines a recreational facility as a building or designated area dedicated to specific leisure activities such as bicycle paths, fishing and boating piers, playing fields, tennis and basketball courts, amusement parks, skating rinks, recreational facilities, and golf courses. And would make a recreational facility a permitted use by right rather than by special exception in the LDR zone, which is a major contention problem, perhaps, for us. TPPA, the Milton Conservation Commission, and many property owners are concerned that these changes will be interpreted as permitting high-impact amusement park use in an LDR zone. At one of the very first meetings that the lawyer for Northgate, He went and he said, in fact, it was the owner, now that I think about it. He went and he said, we're in competition with Las Vegas and Florida. Well, Milton is neither. And what happens is that, you know, if you put this, and it's too late. We recognize that the voters are going to speak on this next week. But and what Norm went on was that it would have been nice to have sat down, and maybe we're at fault. Maybe TPPA, maybe Conservation Commission is. If you extended that invitation, I guess, I don't know how we missed that. But what happens is that somehow there needs to be some assurances that, you know, this isn't, once this is in writing, what is to prevent Northgate, a subsidiary of Sun RV, whatever, from saying, here's our opportunity to become Yogi Bear Park, all right? I mean, it's in their ordinance. I mean, you're fighting it in court now. Once this becomes part of your ordinance, and even though it's just a general statement, all right, that Bruce went and took, and he admits, you know, if I could just go on, he says, you've explained that there is no intent to try to lure amusement parks in Milton around the lakes or anywhere else in the town, and that the amusement parks is a definition because the planning board used a standard definition, word for word, out of the American Planning Association Planning Advisory Services book on typically used land use definitions. Our fear is that potentially someone could use that, some fancy lawyer from Northgate or whatever, to go and say, well, it's there, so it's permitted. And now it's permitted by right, rather than going before the ZBA. And that's our concern.
Can I make a request?
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Can Cynthia read her letter so that the community can hear what she has to say and the people in the room can hear what she has to say? Is that?
It's up. I'm going to turn it over to the board.
I know you guys got to see it. I just wasn't sure.
Is it on our website? Dave,
I believe the letter is on the town's website, yes.
Oh, okay.
And it's also been circulated on Facebook.
You know, with that being said, I mean, do I have a different outlook on it now? Yes. I mean, because, you know, we get this at the 11th hour after, we got it actually after the deliberative session, which it was out of our hands. I mean, is it going to show up on the town warrant as it recommended by us? No. So, I mean, I don't know what happened, you know, how it didn't from the planning board. I mean, basically what we do as selectmen is we get recommendations from the Conservation Commission, the planning board. You know, they come to us. You came to us about the night. You know, that I'm 100% behind it. You know, but when we don't, I mean, I don't go to every planning board meeting. I don't watch all the planning board meetings. I got to go by what's spoon-fed to us.
Right, and if you go back, I actually brought it up in the selectmen comments that the planning board was working on this table and that we're having public hearings at the selectmen meetings too. I did specifically bring that up because it was a big thing the planning board working on. Now, I don't want to start any tension between any boards. I think everybody's doing the best they can with the best intentions, and I think we all want to work together to benefit the town. But I also don't solely think it's fair that if the Conservation Commission's here to speak about this, not to also have the planning board here to speak about it. So both parties can get their thoughts right. So
feel free to
that's my only. I just don't think it's necessarily very fair to the townspeople to only get one side tonight and not get both sides, and so everybody has a full understanding of what's going on.
You're not televised, are you, for planning board?
No, I don't know if they will be tomorrow night or not. It's up to the planning board.
Where on the website is the letter?
I haven't viewed it, but I requested that it be placed on the town website at the Conservation Commission's request, so I believe it is there.
I'm looking.
You're looking? Okay.
Mr. Lucier said that you're not recommending it, but on the sample ballot, it says 3-0 recommended by
Well,
selectmen.
I said, I don't,
Well, I misunderstood. I'm not.
on the
taking
11th hour, correct. This is, this has all been placed into us in the past week, knowing now the ramifications, when I go behind that curtain, I will vote no on it. And we're not, I think it's another thing that's gonna come up tonight is we're not gonna even, on any of the zoning articles am I correct? I think that was your recommendation that.
Yeah, that the selectmen can't make recommendations.
Right, so it's not gonna show up on the ballot.
It's on the sample ballot because we didn't catch it early enough, but it's not
It's
on.
not gonna go to the voters as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. And I personally will go public and say I'm not supporting it, so.
Well, there's gonna be no recommendation on there,
Right.
period.
Right.
It's not saying one way or the
From
other.
the
There's
selectmen.
I
no
don't know how many
recommendation
people
from
read
the selectmen.
sample. I feel like you get it in your head, and I'm just worried about that, but. And not trying to cause any problems, but just trying to understand.
No,
what's all
and
that
I don't-
fast. I came to one of the first planning board meetings where they talked about the change in the table, and there was no public comment allowed, and everybody
find
was
it?
sort of frustrated, and I missed the next one, and then
I don't
the next thing I
have
know,
anything to do with
from
the
what
website
I knew
anymore, so I
from
don't
watching,
know how it's
it
really
was
set up.
a done deal and couldn't be changed, so I might have missed something, but I do care about the process and the time you guys all put in, and just want to have clarity.
No, and the intention of the planning board was to bring Milton's ordinance up to today's standards, and so we wouldn't end up in a lawsuit like we are today. That was solely the intention of this whole thing. So I think discussion with the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board tomorrow night will be a good thing to see where both parties are coming from, and maybe there will be some common ground, and maybe each party is under a different understanding of what that definition and what this amendment does do. But I don't think it's very fair to try to have that conversation tonight without all the parties involved. That's my personal opinion.
I'm not being rude, I'm okay.
I can't find it.
The only thing I've found is that they're gonna discuss the letter tomorrow. It's one thing I can find.
Well, can we make sure that the letter's posted tomorrow morning?
I can double check, sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you. See you guys tomorrow night. All right, so back to, we are on expenditure report now.
We don't have an I'm sorry, we do have an expenditure report, okay.
We haven't got a
We don't
budget
have a
yet.
budget. We don't
have a budget,
Finished
so-
Yeah.
report.
So it doesn't, it's not of much use without an
I was just
approved
gonna say, we
budget.
haven't got an approved budget yet. So.
Yeah.
So are we good with that?
I
Bless
personally-
you, I mean, whatever.
Excuse me. All right, so next is public comment pertaining to topics discussed. So I'll open up public comments. Larry?
Thank you. Larry Brown. I wanted to talk about the 2017 and 2019 Commercial Electrical Code.
Does that have anything to do with today?
Oh, trust me, it does.
Okay.
I happened to be reading it. It's a quiet day in the country. I was reading that. And they had several groups trying to find standards for in-floor outlets for commercial buildings. Commercial buildings that had dividers, commercial buildings that had coffee pots on one side, commercial buildings that had several tables, commercial buildings that did not have several tables, that were or were not meeting halls. And you know what they found? They decided to let the architect and the users of the building decide the standards and location of plugs that they wanted for the building. And you were wondering what I'm talking about? I'm talking about local definitions of zoning changes. Got it?
No, but.
You get done talking about what the International Building Code says, and you come back to
I
what
didn't bring
the
that up
town
tonight, so
is-
that hasn't
Oh,
been, this is
that's-
public
that's-
comments as
All
to
right.
what we discussed tonight. Point of order.
So, we're at the minute mark anyway.
Yep.
So, I'll give you,
You got it. Local control.
thank you. Any other public comments? All right, I'm not seeing any. I will close that. We will move on to administrator comments.
I don't think I have very much for the board this evening, aside from the business we've covered here.
Do we need to make a motion for that?
Which is it?
Or is that all covered?
That's all taken care of. I took care of that administratively. Well, actually, I think the town clerk was asking that she wanted a recorded vote on it for her, records, yeah.
All right, that was the
Even though
email.
it was taken care of administratively, but she would like something saying that the board approved it.
So if the board agrees, I'll make a motion that the selectmen recommendations are removed from Article 2, Article 3, and Article 4 from the town ballot.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, the town election is next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow. Just to remind everyone to get out to vote. It's
From
important.
8 a.m. to 7 p.m.
8 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Sorry. Are there any more meetings before the vote?
Selectmen?
Yes.
Nope.
No. Next meeting is March 18th. It's the next scheduled meeting. So I don't have anything else for you. Sorry.
Okay, selectmen comments? Andy,
I'm good.
you're good? No comments on your last meeting?
I'm surprised you're not doing the happy
Andy's
dance.
card?
Yeah.
Do you have Andy's card?
No guarantee.
I just have 2 comments. The first comment, I'd like to say congratulations to Dana and
Oh, yeah, that's
her
good news.
husband on the birth of their little boy. I couldn't think of his Josh, on the birth of their little boy. And then I'd also like to just let you know that Bob Carrier will be standing in for me on Tuesday from 7:30 till 12:30, and then I'll be there at 12:30 for the remainder of the day. Thank you, Mr. Carrier. That's it for me.
All right. I will just say that Winter Carnival, I think, went fairly well this past weekend. Fire department did a great job with the pancake breakfast. Rec director had several activities for the children. The Model D Snowmobile Club came out giving rides. Just appreciate everybody that participated and made the event happen. So it's a good time. And I guess we're gonna adjourn and then give Andy his.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. You want to make the motion, Andy, since it's your last one?
I hope it is. Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Nancy.